This is kind of a follow-up video to my Future of Gaming Software video, where I talked about the future of how future games might be past the 8th generation, maybe to the 9th and 10th. Someone had asked me, what about new intellectual properties? And I had said that future games that will see more of the same with maybe just different characters and slightly different stories, but we still see Sonic and Mario. And I think that person either misinterpreted it or took it way too literally. So I went to reply to them, and I thought about it for a second. Like, that's actually a really good question. So as I thought about it, I realized that it was a double-edged sword. Now, what do I mean by it's a double-edged sword? Well, this is how new intellectual properties are going to go, and this is just based on current trends. We're going to have the big we all have the big publishers, and here's the thing, they're in it to make money. That is their biggest reason for doing what they do, to make money. So what they're going to do is they're going to pour more marketing into the titles that they think are going to sell. But the titles that aren't going to sell aren't going to get that much marketing and are pretty much just going to get looked over. I think a really good example is if we look at how Call of Duty has gone on for so long. Because, one, people buy it. But what does Activision do? Look at how much marketing they push into that game to promote it. I want to say millions, maybe $1 billion in advertising, magazine ads, those cardboard cutout things that you see at GameStop that says reserve now, posters, everything that they do to make sure that people know that this game is coming out. So, of course, people are going to sell that, people are going to buy that game. They're going to buy it because they're going to want it. They saw all the ads. They saw it in the gaming magazines, gaming websites. Everyone's talking about it. And because the publisher is pushing so much money into the marketing. But now let's look at the other side. Let's say a new intellectual property is coming up. I don't know, just pretend whatever idea you have for an intellectual property, just insert that name here. And the game is developed, it's ready to go gold, and you found a publisher. And let's say you found one of the big names wanted to take it up. But the thing is, yeah, this game is going to come out, but they don't have that much confidence in it. They're not going to, you might see a magazine ad maybe once, maybe. That's probably it, actually, because I don't think they're going to put any money into making a commercial for on TV or those internet videos or anything like that. I think you just maybe might see just that one little small-sized box ad in a game magazine, and that's all that they'll put into it. And this game could get hit. A critic could play this game, and then they'd be saying, "This is one of the greatest games ever made." And guess what happens? No one buys it. And if they want to make a sequel, the publisher's like, well, your game didn't sell well, so we're not going to publish it again, so go find someone else. And then they may go, well, they go to another publisher, and they publish this, your first game didn't sell well. Why would we lose money on that? When really, the publisher did not even put barely a cent into the marketing originally. So of course it wasn't going to sell well. They wanted to sell their Call of Duty Black Ops Super Duper Edition number 79. They wanted to sell that because they knew that would make money, because they knew that gamers would buy it. But what about when a new big intellectual property is coming up? And what I mean by that is it's usually one that is owned by the publisher or the publisher's subsidiaries. Okay, good example. Uncharted. Brand new intellectual property by Naughty Dog, who's owned by Sony Computer Entertainment of America. Now, of course, Sony, they know Naughty Dog makes really good stuff, but they're going to pour as much marketing dollars into that game as they possibly can afford to do so. So this way, everyone knows about it. So everyone's going to want it. They're going to see Nathan Drake jumping around, doing all of his stuff, and pretty much looks like a new updated version of Tomb Raider with a guy instead of a girl. But guess what? It was a hit. I love Uncharted. I wish I had I wish I had a PlayStation 3 again, so this way I could play the series again. I just don't have one anymore. But that's really the best example. So let's say Sony has a new intellectual property that's coming out, and there's another new intellectual property is coming out that Sony might publish, but it's done by some little independent studio that they're just brand new. So here's what Sony's going to do. They're going to look at the big intellectual property that they're pushing out that's got their name on it. They are going to push that game out as much as they possibly can for their PlayStation 4, and it's going to be one of the greatest games for that system that everyone's going to remember. Now let's look at the smaller one. Again, Sony is not going to put any marketing into it. You'll see that little itty bitty magazine ad, or maybe that little tiny little flash ad on IGN or something like that. They're not going to put any money into it because they have no faith in it. And that is kind of what brings me to Psychonauts. Now, everyone is always asking me to review Psychonauts. I have only played it for maybe 10-30 minutes, and I don't remember it that well. It was a long time ago, and so I gotta pick up another copy. I am interested in it, but I'm not gonna pay. I think there's some places that sell it for really expensive. I'm like, why? But anyway, Psychonauts did not sell well, but it has a cult following. It's been rated as one of the best games that you've never played. And is there a Psychonauts 2? No. Do they want to make one? I would assume so. But is it going to happen? Maybe not. Because the same thing would happen. They're going to sit down, they're going to bring it to a publisher and say, publish it! And they're going to look at it and say, the last one didn't sell that well, why would we want to publish this one? We're going to publish this new game that's a sequel to a sequel to a sequel to a sequel that sold millions and millions and made us billions and billions of dollars. There's no confidence. That's why new intellectual properties are going to be that double-edged sword. We're going to see the ones that they're going to pour all the marketing into that they essentially own because they want that one to sell. They're banking everything on it. And the ones that are by these probably little indie developer new studios that consist of maybe 10 people, and they find a good publisher, they're not going to get that much marketing because there's no faith in it at all. It could be one of the greatest games ever, but because the publisher is not putting any faith into it, it's not going to get any marketing, so it's not going to sell that well because no one is going to know about it. And this is really based on the current trend of how things are going. If you look at it, has any publisher really put much marketing into the small little tiny games? Of course not. They won't. They never will. Because they don't have confidence in them. They don't want to lose money on pouring millions and billions of dollars into marketing for a game that no one might play. And I can understand that logic. I don't agree with it, but I understand it because they've been burned on games before. The publishers put all the money into the marketing, the manufacturers of the disc, everything else. They put all that money into it, and when people buy the games, they make that money back plus profit and give whatever's left to the developers. That's how the publishers work. It's a corporation. They're in it for money, and they're not going to risk losing money on something that they know will not sell because they can already tell from the current trends of what is going to sell. Now, I know that some people are thinking and have already said on the future of gaming software thing, I know what you're thinking, that I'm painting a pretty bleak picture of the future of the game industry. And unfortunately, yeah, I am. But it's based on the current trend of how things are being handled. And it doesn't take a genius to really see that this is how things are going. We could look at some of the greatest games of all time, like Psychonauts, that did not sell that well, but is one of the best games ever. And because it didn't sell well, because there was really no marketing put into it other than a few magazine ads at the time of its release. So they had no confidence, not going to get marketing, not going to sell. That's how the future of intellectual property is really going to work. It's going to be that double-edged sword. The big name stuff is going to get all the marketing money. The little name stuff is barely going to get squat. And that's all.